Bonjour, good day, 안녕하세요. My name is Francesco Garutti, and I'm Curator Contemporary Architecture at the Canadian Centre for Architecture in Montreal. On behalf of the CCA, I love to thank the Seoul Hall of Urbanism and Architecture for having invited us to collaborate to the production of this new phase of the research and exhibition project, Our Happy Life, Architecture and Well-Being in the Age of Emotional Capitalism. I love to thank sincerely for all the work done together, Ms. Hyoeun Kim, and the whole staff of the Seoul Hall of Urbanism and Architecture. The Canadian Centre for Architecture is an international research institution operating from the fundamental premise that architecture is a public concern. It was founded in 1979 by Phyllis Lambert as a new type of cultural institution, with the aim of increasing public awareness of the role of architecture in contemporary society and promoting research in the field. We develop and share our collection as a resource, advance research, and offer public programs that bring attention to the key topics that have particular relevance and urgency today. At the CCA, we see architecture as a way of reading and redefining the present, the way in which we live and we work. Through our curatorial and editorial initiatives, we challenge preconceptions and deconstruct the apparent normality of ideas such as progress, health, technology, or education. By placing architecture, the city, landscape, and the environment at large in a broader cultural, social, and political context, we try to raise questions about how architects and planners can contribute to redefining problems and proposing alternative solutions for our society today. And the projects such as Our Happy Life has been conceived by our curatorial team at the CCA precisely along these lines. Our Happy Life is not an exhibition about design solutions that make you happy, or urban plans that help us to achieve a better life. It's actually an investigation about how the focus on well-being data and their presence in the media has affected the way we design and think of space today. In this way, Our Happy Life is a critical reading of the side effects of a new political agenda. It's a study how the political discourse following the 2008 financial crisis generated a so-called happiness industry, a pervasive market of emotions. This industry, we argue, is focused more on the construction of surfaces than on the design of places, more on the quantification of individual experiences than the questions of collective behaviors, more on the rhetoric of sustainability than attending to our natural environment. Based on a critical assessment of what philosopher Byung-Chul Han defined as emotional capitalism, Our Happy Life explores how this happiness industry, centered on production of affects rather than generation of forms, has been, and still is, influencing how urban space is imagined today. But this project in Seoul is more than that. All the conversations, the films, the text, and the ideas collected during the research at the CCA between 2018 and 2019 are enriched here by recent new narratives, including investigation and case studies developed by the precious and brilliant research team of the Seoul Society of Architecture, somehow producing in this way a new format that merge shared reflections and different perspectives on the topic. At the CCA, we see touring exhibitions as evolving organisms, open-ended narratives that are able to trigger new forms of dialogue and unexpected lines of investigations. And today, facing new complex cultural, economic, environmental, and health crises, we strongly feel that occasion of discussions, dialogue, and collaboration like this one a unique opportunity for the definition of more relevant questions and for a better framing of the problems of our present and of our future. Thanks again to the Seoul Hall of Urbanism and Architecture. Kam Samnida.
Good morning. It's 8 a.m. maybe in Montreal and 9 p.m. in Seoul. That's how we worked. We meet again at Zoom the way we always met, and it's always nice to see you again. First of all, I'll briefly introduce the exhibition and CCA and then introduce our team. Our Happy Life exhibition with Canadian Center for Architecture being the first international exchange exhibition of Seoul Hall of Urbanism and Architecture is a very meaningful collaboration for us. CCA is an international research institution operating from the fundamental premise that architecture is a public concern. With our Happy Life, the CCA continues its 4-decade-long work of exposing contradiction, preconceptions, and attitude in our culture in how we practice architecture. It's our honor to invite Francesco Garutti, who is a curator contemporary architecture at the CCA, and Irene, curatorial assistant at the CCA. And we have Winnie Chen, curatorial administrator, and I'm Hyoeun Kim, senior curator at the Seoul Hall. We are here to discuss on the curator point of view today. Hi, everyone.
First of all, thank you very much for the invite. I think it's a pleasure to have this conversation together, as you mentioned, after all the sessions we had to build this exhibition. I think I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Irene as well, and all the team of CCA, from the curatorial to the production side. I think that I might add a couple of words about how the CCA works, how we somehow conceive our curatorial and editorial initiatives to kind of enter more into the why. We have been deciding to do an exhibition about the happiness agenda and why we have decided to do it today somehow. So as you said, the CCA was founded in 1979 by Phyllis Lambert as a sort of experimental new institutional format, where the CCA it's an hybrid. I would say it's a pioneer type of research center, assembling or putting together a big archive, a big collection, a research center, and an exhibition space where we develop shows as laboratories somehow and public programs to develop and to start to kind of with the aim of increasing, I would say, public awareness on the role of architecture today. And architecture and space, really in a more kind of extended and inclusive way, are field for us where to investigate the transformation of culture and society. Or the reverse, we sometimes start somehow exploring cultural and societal transformations, moments of friction, evolution or revolution in our world, in order to enter into the discipline of architecture and investigate it, starting from kind of a broader cultural mutations in our life. At the CCA, somehow we investigate the present, but how we do that? We try to, as you mentioned, you always kind of challenge and deconstruct the apparent normality of our time. We've been challenging and tackling kind of notions as such as, the idea of progress, environment, health, technology, or education. And we have been always kind of interested in studying the gray areas of our society. So somehow those areas where it's possible to find and to kind of investigate or detect the questions that we need to pose ourselves to live today. It's a sort of a kind of approach to exhibition and research making that is positioning architecture in a sort of an expanded kind of a field of culture. And sometimes you really say that we are using architecture to understand how the world is going today. And sometimes as I said, we arrive to a reflection on space from, points or directions as perspectives that are unexpected or apparently are very distant from what architecture and space. And our reflection about our happy life is one of those. Is somehow why does a Center for Research in Architecture is investigating, emotional capitalism? Why did we start there and why did we start today? It's something that somehow this project arrives at the sort of a non-planned triptych of shows. In 2004, at the CCA, we have been studying and researching about urbanism from the sensorial perspective, urbanism of senses. In 2013, we have been, with an exhibition titled Imperfect Health, we have been investigating how architecture, in the last 10 years somehow has been medicalized, or was a reflection on the relationship between how architecture and the human body were somehow studying the friction or the smooth component of the relationship among these two entities. And with our happy life, that's why I said we were talking of a sort of a triptych, we arrived to study emotional capitalism today, or how the contemporary market of emotion started to be affecting the built environment. And we ended up arriving there, somehow studying the side effects of a political agenda. But I'll try to be short, but I think it's important to kind of contextualize our reflection to understand our present, and also it's important to kind of study our recent past. And this is we have been following to kind of develop the research for our happy life, the words of Will Davis, sociologist and political theorist based in the UK, who has also been contributing to our publication. We've been constantly in dialogue with to produce this show. And with him, we've been basically starting our research, somehow moving from crisis to crisis, from the crisis today of the 2020-21 to the 2008. Why the 2008? Because after, the financial crisis and the crash of 2008, the political discourse about happiness and well-being started to appear in a different way on the scene. I can say that the notion of the crisis and that one of speculating, theorizing, and working on well-being, they are paradoxically complementary one to the other. In a moment in which, let's say, one of the most dramatic crash of our era started to hit our world in 2008, 2009, politicians started to kind of use the word happiness more and more, and somehow propose a new typology of assessment of our way of living, or assessment of the quality of life that was going beyond, proposing the idea of going beyond GDP and entering in a sort of a new era where objective well-being data were kind of integrated by questions about subjectiveness. So emotions added to figures and numbers. And this is, of course, was a move which produced a sort of a trend, and also kind of produced, the production of, the production of many indexes and political reports meant to kind of render in a better way what was this type of new trend in assessment of the quality of our life. So I can just quickly mention that in 2008, Mismeasuring Life, a report initiated by Nicolas Sarkozy and developed by a team of political theorists and economists, among them Joseph Stiglitz, was launched and published. Dan Cameron in 2010 proposed an initiative on well-being. The Canadian Index of Well-being is launched in 2011. The Happy Planet Index is kicked off and incremented and implemented in 2012. The Happiness Research Institute is founded in 2013. In 2016, Arumi is elected
Minister of Happiness in the UAE. So these are all somehow a phenomenon or kind of a type of reports and indices to arrive to the 2012 when the United Nations somehow published and released a new declaration about happiness of a trend, which also in 2012 arrived to the publication of the World Happiness Report by the United Nations. So all these type of kind of new documents, they were on one end, as I said, kind of endorsing or embracing a sort of a new logic of assessing emotion and subjectiveness into, our life at the political level. But at the same time, they were also constructing sort of the assessment of happiness through rankings, indexes, parameters, and certain idea of standards and new values, which produce for us a market. So a series of side effects. What the CCA decided to do, it was, a long story to arrive to the point, was somehow to investigate how this sort of a new interpretation or new reading at the political level of our life produce a different agenda, a new set of values, and a series of side effects that we decided to explore and study. This was the somehow how we arrived there. Yes.
We thought that it was good that to involve different fields of professionals too. Like after hearing basically you gave a timeline of how you started the happiness exhibition from 2008 and then 2012 and all the happenings. And in between of how do you pick who to involve in the exhibition and include in the book? For example, like Should We Worry, the panels, and also the Williams Davis in the book, and also other case studies. How did you select it? They are the ones.
Yeah. So in a way, the whole exhibition, as I was mentioning, starts from a reflection about a transformation at the political level, and so we needed somehow to involve figures expert in political theories. Will Davis, for example, is one of them. We have been kind of somehow involving figures related to economy, the kind of a tracking of data, like Daniel Fujiwara and his brother Simon, who are somehow been working together in assessing what are the happiness data today. But this connects to what I was saying at the beginning. Somehow we arrived to kind of a reflection that is generated by a political and economic discourse. So we needed somehow expert in those fields to start entering and into our reflection. And all the case studies selected for the exhibition somehow are not on purpose, including projects or urban intervention with architecture with the capital A. They are not kind of we didn't select kind of architects or authors who have been kind of somehow working on finding solutions or new tactical interventions about well-being. We wanted to track somehow the apparent normality where the side effects of this agenda started to be applied and visible. So the entire research and exhibition has been conceived as a sort of a machine to produce questions that then in a second phase that also Irene will mention and talk about later, all these questions that were posed to contemporary practitioners and architects. So the exhibition in itself was an incubator of reflection to study social, political, economical phenomenon, and then, absorb these questions produced by the show and relaunching them to different other series of practitioners.
It's good to know because we thought it actually different fields of professionals, you have to include different fields to have a different point of view, to have a more all-rounded exhibition, to let also the visitors to think and reflect on themselves as well. And maybe we could talk about what we brought from Canada to Seoul.
Sure. So In Canada, we had ecology of products, and usually when we do thematic research-based project like this, we're starting always thinking not only of the exhibition but of accompanying publication, and as Francesco mentioned, public programs. In this project in particular, the film Now Please Think About Yesterday was also a central core part of the exhibition to basically, for the audience, describe to them a methodology of how happiness and well-being is quite rigorously quantified and is somehow a science today. So that was always a discrete and important component, and of course that was brought to Seoul in this yellow screening room with soft materials, and at the CCA originally in Montreal, it was screened quite in a neutral white box, but it was exciting for us to be able to contrast this very scientific story with a very soft setting in when we brought it to Seoul. And then the other main film was a brand new product, in fact. So Francesco did a brief summary of the political backstory, and just try to describe a bit the perspective that we used to do our research. And it was quite a challenge to figure out how we bring all of that information to Seoul. So we also confronting the challenges of producing an international exchange exhibition in these times, we came to the conclusion to make a brand new video essay. And the scale of the hall and all of the factors combined, we took it as a opportunity to experiment with this digital storytelling format, to combine all these voices of the talking heads of these key political figures and scientists, but also the voices of everyday people talking about everyday life. And so the key video essay in the hall, it was an interesting production process of revisiting the physical objects from the exhibition. So even though we told a lot of stories through photography and video, we deliberately brought a lot of these objects, exhibition objects, back to the CCA to refilm them in a specific way in order to compose a visually coherent narrative, a new linear narrative, to reflect on the research that we originally did, but also then extend the story and situate the perspective of well-being today. Obviously, in 2020, we have different contexts for understanding health and mental health and well-being. So that was the second main component, to summarize and reflect and recontextualize. And then finally, we have the digital library, which was nice because really in Seoul, it's the first time you get to see the overall exploration, because the exhibition, as Francesco mentioned, it was very intentional to not have capital A architecture or architects as professionals speaking as in their role of how do you design city. And it was really the questions that the exhibition produced posed to the architects only afterwards to the public programs. So even though we produced all this research material, the opportunity to present it all in one space, in one setting, is really unique to our collaboration with you. And then of course that space has the component of the Society of Architecture, new case studies, expanding the research to the local context with our curatorial framework. So the digital library is what is the really fascinating third component, this third space for us.
Yeah, I can highlight what Irene just mentioned about, the construction of basically a touring show in collaboration with an institution like you. For us has been a sort of a unique opportunity, because not only, I think, let's say, we manage together with you to basically reconstruct, what Irene defined as the ecology of products of the entire kind of macro project about our IP Live. So the cinematographic products, a new video essay, the research done on the field, the reports, conceived with the producer of our visual identity, Hyoeun from London, essays written for the book, the interview done, a TV show and dialogue. So all these ecology of products, but kind of developing basically an exhibition that traveling is changing. And it's changing through your contribution, through the dialogue that we had with you, with the Society of Architecture in Seoul and your team. So I think that today, imagining show and exhibition touring and while traveling, kind of mutating its own kind of identity, absorbing different perspectives. I think it's a strategy that we are adopting more and more at the CCA. And I think beside being sustainable, is also a way of basically keep reflecting on the topic. As Irene also mentioned, we started this research basically at the end of 2017. The exhibition was kind of open in Montreal in 2019, and now we are working with you in a totally different context. So I think it was a great opportunity, and we thank you a lot for this collaboration.
I mean, we also would like to say thank you, for this collaboration, and then I want to say that thank you for re-editing and recomposing the video, Our Happy Life nonfiction essay, and then it was very good summary of your exhibition, and then we can also share the idea of the happiness on the political level and point of view, and also from the individual point of view in the video.